Long before recorded history, long before the rise of Earth's known civilizations, this transmission claims humanity's deeper story began on a world called Tara. Not Earth as we know it, but an earlier planetary field, a higher stage in the human evolutionary arc. In that distant age, entire civilizations were already rising, competing, and experimenting with forces far beyond anything modern history is willing to admit. Among the key civilizations named in this account were the Lumians and the Alanians. The Lumians are presented as a people who foresaw disaster. Their rivals, the Alanians, had begun experimenting with immense planetary power sources deep within Tara's core. This was not ordinary technology, it was the manipulation of the energy grid said to hold an entire world together across dimensions. And once a civilization starts tampering with the blueprint of a planet itself, the risk is no longer political, it becomes existential. Seeing what was coming, the Lumians sought help from higher councils associated with what the text calls Harmonic Universe 2. Under that guidance, they established what became known as the Council of Mu. Large numbers of their people relocated to a continent called Mu, a sanctuary where they attempted to correct what they saw as a genetic decline within their species. Mu, in this telling, was not just a lost land, it was a controlled recovery zone, a last effort to preserve balance before catastrophe. Then came one of the most important interventions in the entire narrative. A group referred to as the Elohim entered the process genetically, blending Lumian lines with a specific Turanusium strain. The result was a refined race called the Ceres, beings described as stabilized, aligned, and connected to what the text calls the Law of One, a principle of unity consciousness rather than domination. On Mu, these Ceres established the priesthood of Mu, not as a religion, but as a spiritual scientific order devoted to genetic stewardship, consciousness training, and planetary energy knowledge. For roughly 50,000 years, Mu is described as a sanctuary, a place of repair, order, and guarded knowledge. But elsewhere, Tara was moving in the opposite direction. In Alania, a ruling elite known as the Templar Solar Initiates had been entrusted with planetary guardianship. According to the text, they betrayed that role. Instead of protection, they pushed deeper into power extraction, going further into the planet's energetic core and risking the stability of the entire world. Then the conflict widened. Factions within the Templars aligned themselves with outside Syrian forces opposed to the ruling Syrian Council. What may have begun as ideological disagreement grew into open rebellion. Now the struggle was no longer limited to one civilization or one planet. Competing lineages, competing loyalties, and competing visions of power had converged on Tara. Mu focused on repair. Alania pursued control. And between them, the conditions for disaster were already forming. Not every Alanian accepted the descent into recklessness. A dissenting faction saw that manipulation of Tara's planetary grid would end in implosion. These dissenters approached Mu and sought alliance. Through reintegration with the Ceres and Lumians, their degraded genetic template was said to be partially restored. This blended lineage became known as the Tyranates, and from them emerged the priesthood of a parallel order focused even more heavily on portal science, dimensional transit, and the guardianship of interdimensional gateways. By now, the lines were drawn. On one side, orders trying to preserve balance, stabilize genetics, and maintain planetary integrity.